Hi everyone, my name is Lily Rabe, I said, starting this story that no one but me could understand to the end. I am 31, and by all outward signs I am quite a successful person. My career in marketing, which I built from scratch, is thriving, customers are satisfied, and I feel confident and free. But inside, like everyone else, I have my own hidden world, filled with shadows of the past and family dramas, from which I tried in vain to escape. Everything changed when my younger sister Maria announced that she was getting married. I thought I could be there for her, support her, help plan every step towards her perfect day. But it soon became clear, the family wounds had reopened, and the shadow of our father, John, had been hanging over us ever since he finally lost himself. John has always been a controversial man. After the divorce, he seems to have lost all hope for a bright future. Alcohol, wrong steps, and endless mistakes became his companions. He plunged into the depths of his loneliness, and only a sad shadow remained of his former loving father. And then Julie came along, a woman I had distrusted from the very beginning. She somehow immediately stuck to her father, as if she knew how to awaken a long-extinguished desire in him, but I could see that her interests extended far beyond sincere feelings. When I had a particularly difficult day one day, I tried to distract myself by choosing flowers with Maria for the ceremony. But then she turned to me, and her voice mirrored her concern. "Liv, do you think Dad will come to the wedding, sober?" "What is it?" she asked, her eyes filled with barely concealed hope. I nodded, trying to calm her down. "For your sake, yes." "I hope so," I said, although deep down in my heart I knew that hope was too shaky a foundation to rely on. And the closer the wedding day came, the more I felt less like a bridesmaid than a judge, committed to maintaining a shaky peace in this difficult situation. My boyfriend, Paul, was a real bulwark for me amid this storm of emotions. He always tried to support me, joking and encouraging me. "Baby, you can't control everything," he said, smiling and hugging me. "I know," I replied, but deep down I knew that if my father ruined this day for Maria, I would never be able to forgive him. On the day when the wedding was only a week away, I met my best friend Teresa for a cup of coffee. She was a kind of compass for me in the storms of life. Her common sense and wisdom often saved me from hasty decisions. When we were sitting in a cozy cafe, Teresa, casting a shrewd glance at me, asked, "What's really going on between you and Julie?" I sighed, lowering my voice as if someone might have overheard. "She's not who she seems, Teresa," I said, trying to find the words. "I don't understand how she was able to captivate her father so quickly, literally engulf him. Constantly whispers something in his ear and gets whatever he wants." One day I accidentally overheard her talking on the phone. She was talking about some big bill. "You know, it's weird." Teresa's eyes widened. "Do you think she's cheating on him?" "I don't know," I admitted, "but I'll find out soon enough." This conversation seemed to light a fire inside me that I couldn't put out. Over the next few days, I spent a lot of time sitting at my computer and studying Julie's social media profiles, trying to catch at least the slightest clue. I called my father's old friends, collecting little things to make a complete picture. But the more I found, the stronger the feeling grew in me that I was revealing a secret that I shouldn't have known. And so, on the eve of the wedding, Maria and I went to the venue to check everything one last time. Suddenly, her father and Julie appeared on the doorstep, without warning. Maria screamed with joy, ran to him, hugged him, and sparks of happiness lit up in her eyes. And I stayed behind, watching. I saw Julie glance around the room, her eyes moving as if she was calculating something, evaluating something. The second the knife thudded to the floor, as if counting down a new stage in our family drama, everything seemed to sink into a strange and painful silence. The guests froze, not taking their eyes off Julie, who was captured by Paul, and from me, who still hadn't recovered from what had happened in a split second. A feeling of heaviness grew deep in my chest, as if I had violated the sanctity of this day. Maria's wedding has now turned into a scene that perhaps no one present will forget. Julie continued to struggle out of Paul's grip, her gaze burning with a fury that was sharper than any blade. She looked like she was ready to cling to me again, but feeling my boyfriend's determination, she finally stopped resisting and froze. People around began to whisper, some froze in disbelief, others looked at each other in fright, trying to make sense of what had happened. At some point, I felt a hand touch my shoulder. When I turned around, I saw Maria. There was so much pain and confusion in her gaze that I involuntarily felt a twinge of guilt. Maria didn't say anything, but her eyes seemed to appeal to me for calm and explanation. She trusted me, believed that I could protect her from all this chaos, but it seemed to me that I had betrayed her trust. I, the older sister, the one who was supposed to be the rock around which her happiness would be built on this special day, could not protect her from our family darkness. Dad, still drunk and unaware of the gravity of the situation, staggered towards us as if nothing had happened. There was the same blank expression in his gaze, and Julie was standing next to him, holding him back from falling, a crooked smile on her lips. She seemed to know that she had achieved her goal, to wreak havoc in our cozy world, to start a fire that I couldn't put out. I felt Paul hug me tighter, as if trying to hide me from this whole nightmare. He was saying something, trying to calm me down, but I barely heard his words. Everything became muffled, as if through a curtain of water, and in the center of this turbulent whirlpool was me, standing in the middle of the broken fragments of what should have been one of my sister's happiest days. Maria suddenly touched my face and said in a barely audible whisper, "Liv, I am. I just wanted it to be different." There was so much pain in her words that it took my breath away. I wanted to reassure her, to tell her that everything could still be fixed, that we would find a way out. But what confidence could I have when I saw for myself how the shadow of the past, which I tried to ignore, returned and overwhelmed us again? That night, when I realized the truth, I saw the dark side of our family that I had been trying not to think about for so long. The papers that Teresa spread out on my coffee table turned out to be silent witnesses to the lies behind Julie's appearance. Fraud, assault, countless incidents, as if torn from some dark chronicle. How could this have escaped my attention and, most importantly, how could my father so blindly believe in her innocence? A fire was raging inside me, pain, anger, and a sense of betrayal mixed into a caustic mixture that poisoned me from the inside. I couldn't imagine that he knew about her past, knew and brought her into our lives anyway. It was like a knife in the back, unexpected and cold. Perhaps I could even accept his weakness, his falling into the abyss of alcohol and illusions, but not this. It's not that he allowed a woman with such a story not only to enter his life, but also to destroy my family, my sister, my world. I knelt down next to the coffee table, looking at those damn documents, realizing that there was no turning back now. What happened at Maria's wedding was not just an accident, it was an inevitability that our father was leading us to. He let a man capable of such a thing into our house. He took her side, turning away from us, and maybe that was the worst betrayal of all. "Liv," Teresa said softly, putting her hand on my shoulder. "We can't change his choice, but you have to decide what to do next." I looked up at her, feeling a chill creep into my chest. "You know," I said, "I always thought I could save him. Always. But now I'm not sure what I want." Teresa nodded, realizing that at that moment I wasn't just cutting ties with the man who was my father. I was freeing myself from the chains that held me captive to his weakness, his shadow, his endless falls. When I finished the call with Paul, the realization of what had happened hit me with unexpected force. The time spent in the chaos of family secrets and difficult decisions seemed to take me into an endless cycle of pain and betrayal. And now, standing at the office window, I looked down at the city from a height, feeling the ability to rejoice and build new dreams returning. The trials I've gone through, oddly enough, have given me a new understanding of myself and a resilience I didn't know before this tumultuous chapter of my life. Meanwhile, the trial of Julie and her father unfolded with a drama worthy of the worst nightmares. The courtroom, crowded with reporters and observers, was filled with anxious whispers at each new disclosure. Dad was sitting next to me, his face looking haggard and tense, like a man who realizes his fall and understands its scale for the first time. When the lawyer stood up and presented the documentation confirming his participation in the fraud, I felt the guests in the hall freeze. It was the moment I was waiting for and dreading at the same time. Dad flinched as if he had been hit when the lawyer read out the documents in a restrained voice. Deep down, I was bitter that this moment was the culmination of a journey that began with deception and blind trust in the woman who almost destroyed our family. He didn't even look at me, looking down at the table, seemingly fully aware of the scale of his mistakes. The months after the trial flew by in a blur, and every day of my life came back to me slowly but inexorably. Maria, Paul, Teresa, and I became really close, turning into a family that you choose, not one that you get by chance. One such evening, at dinner in my apartment, Maria raised her glass. Her voice was full of strength, and her eyes shone with happiness. "To new beginnings," she proclaimed, and I joined her toast, adding with a smile, "To the family we choose." The sense of unity we shared that evening finally gave me the peace I craved. Amid all the chaos and pain that left their deep scars on our hearts, Maria and Brian found the courage to start over. Their decision to renew their vows in a cozy open-air ceremony was a ray of light piercing the dark cloud of their experiences. In their backyard, among close friends and family, a new memory was created, clean and warm. Brian, looking at Maria with a smile, whispered with a slight grin, "The second time is for luck," making her laugh softly, and looking at them, I felt like that very moment had finally come, a moment of peace and healing. But there was another important day ahead, the trial of Julie, and each of us felt the denouement approaching, like the last breath in a long and painful journey. The courtroom was full, and the tension in the air could be felt. We've been through so much pain together that it seemed like a miracle to be sitting here supporting each other, still strong and united despite all the shocks we've been through. The moment came, and I stood up to make a statement about the impact on the victim. My hands were shaking slightly, but I could feel the hardness in my voice, filled not only with pain, but also with strength. Looking directly at Julie, I said, "The scars from that night are deep, but they made me stronger. I am here today not as a victim, but as a survivor who was ready to take back his life." When Julie was led away in handcuffs, I felt the long-awaited completion for the first time. This long, painful chapter of my life was finally coming to an end. The real celebration, however, came a little later, a month later, when we gathered with the people closest to me to celebrate not only my promotion, but also everything that we had overcome together. At the festive table in my favorite restaurant, Maria raised her glass. Her smile was wide and bright. "To Lily, the strongest of us all," she said, looking at me with pride. I felt my throat constrict with emotion. Looking at the faces of Maria, Paul, Teresa, and Brian, all those who were with me in my darkest hour, I realized that a real family is defined not by blood ties, but by loyalty and love. This whole year has been like a long, terrible dream, but it has taught me something important. I found the courage to get rid of everything toxic and burdensome, leaving those who really matter next to me. Sitting at the table, surrounded by true love and support, I felt for the first time in a long time that the road to the future was open to me. Yes, this happiness had scars, but they made it real, made it really beautiful.